Welcome back to the channel, and today is road test day, and today we are road tasting this 1997 Ducati 916, and we're going to try to discover whether this is still, how does it stack up 30 years later. Nearest comparison that I have to it is this, my Monster. This is 20 years newer. This is 821, so similar CCs as my 916. It's also 112 horsepower. This is 109, so it's about the same horsepower. It does obviously have a very different riding position, but it also has the same tyres on it. They are both wearing Diablo Rosso 4s. So comparatively, other than the riding dynamics of the seating position, very similar bikes 20 years apart. This one is has a lot of electrical elements to it, ride-by-wire throttle, riding modes, we have ABS, we have traction control. This of course has none of that. It is purely analog in every sense of the word. Everything is cable driven, from the throttles to the clutch, analog dials. So which do I prefer, because they are different bikes, but does a 30-year-old superbike still stack up, and is it still beyond its intrinsic value of a old classic bike? Does it still stack up from a riding standpoint with its modern counterparts? Let's jump on, let's get kitted up, and let's go find out. So, should you meet your heroes? Road testing this 30-year-old bike, bless it, and does it still stack up? Or how does it stack up with, its modern counterparts? You could argue it's come back around in vogue now. We're getting a whole slew of, 900cc twins coming up, which all have similar-ish horsepower ratings as this does. This is 109 horsepower. There's quite a lot to choose from. So how does it stack up? As I mentioned in the opening, the biggest direct comparison I have is the Monster that I own, which does have a similar horsepower and is on identical tyres to this. Sounds amazing, but the modern ones don't have not a touch on this beautiful, very distinctive noise. Make sure my visor is closed. I sometimes compare the engine in these things to the Merlin Spitfire engine, which has a very distinct noise sound to it. You can tell a mile away when it's coming along, much like this. So, how does it, and you have to excuse my coughing, the pollen this autumn has been quite horrendous for me, so apologies for clearing my throat all the time. But how does this stack up then with the modern bikes? And you know, is it still, oh, it's big, valid 30 years on? He pulls all of that torque. You know, back in the 90s when these were racing, that was their superpower, wasn't it? Just powering out of the corners. So now, as you can tell by me revving it, I'm out of this taxi driver just hogging the fast lane. As I was saying, you can tell that I'm now out of running in period. She's had another service and fresh oil and a clean bill of health, which is excellent. So now I can enjoy her in all her glory. Full revs. And full revs, and of course I got the tyres changed a little while ago. So now I'm on the Pirelli Diablo Rosso 4s, which means she handles like a dream. Is she comfortable? No. Does she have a heavy clutch? Yes. This thing certainly keeps your wrists and your fingers in fit and fighting shape. But that's, you know, okay, maybe the heavy clutches definitely have got lighter over the years. But the riding position, you know, it's a sports bike. It's never going to be comfortable. I can't compare it to the Monster, which is far more sit up and beg kind of position. But beyond that, you know, it is a Ducati. It gets hot, especially with the underseat exhaust. But then, you know, you can spend 30 grand on a top of the line V4S and you're going to get hot as well. It's an ongoing problem, which so that's comparable. I think my Monster gets bloody hot as well, no question. I've taken it into London a few times. My office is in London, and you know, in the summer I've given up doing that, to be honest. I kept getting various tickets for going up the wrong road that changes on a weekly basis and the other nonsense that you have in London. But alright, let's open her up a bit. She handles beautifully. Show her suspension. It's not the Öhlins, but does an excellent job. Certainly of a rider of my ability. I'm never pushing it to its limits. The suspension and now the new tyres are far more capable than I am. Just got to warm them up, get them up to speed, and then play around. Oof. Into a tourist. I don't recognise that plate. What plate is that, do we think? Oh, that's a... But cornering wise, she's definitely slower to turn in than my Monster, but I've got to put that down to the riding position and the width of the bars. The Monster has very wide bars. I'm sitting up, I can kind of yank the bike from side to side and move it side to side. Oh, there's a horse there. Didn't see them hiding there. You know, as I said, it's got the same tyres on. I think identical sizes actually. So you know, we have to look at the other reasons, the geometry, of course. But when it is in a corner, this feels far more planted and reassuring than my Monster, no question at all. Holds its line with extreme, you know, you can run out all the usual kind of bike journalist nonsense here, you know, like a precision instrument and all this kind of stuff, but it is the kind of wording that kind of jumps into your head. It is precise, it holds its line, it does exactly what you ask it to do. Load of traffic here, which is not great, but we are now in the Nationals, which is good. There should be a couple of overtaking opportunities, I hope, because I was hoping to find this quite quiet. Beautiful tree-lined road in East Sussex. Those of you that live in this area probably know exactly where I am. Especially as I just went through a village, but all right. So as you just saw there, plenty of torque, plenty of pull by modern, you know, back in the 90s, this is, of course, was the pinnacle of kind of superbike performance. You know, you had your GSXRs and so forth, probably a little bit more performance out of those, but they were restricted to a gentleman's agreement of, I think it's about 126, 125 horsepower. But minimal input goes exactly where you want it to. Now, of course, I don't have any electronic rider aids. My clutch is, oh, nice Mini, connected via a cable. My throttle is connected via cable. I'm getting all the feedback through mechanical means from the bike, telling me what's going on, what it's doing, which, to be honest, I really like. I have these three, which I've complained about, dashes, dials rather. They don't really tell me a lot. They don't show where the red line is. But I'm a bit of a... I'm not a fan of digital dashes. It's nice to have a little digital screen that can tell you information that's going on, no question. That would be nice to have, but you can't be a beautifully crafted analog dial. There is a reason digital watches lose value and precision, nicely crafted analog dials gain value. Watches. The fueling isn't bad as well. You know, we talk about modern fueling being very good, but the fueling on this, I believe this was their first fuel injected bike. You know, I'm doing, what am I don't even know what gear I'm in, second or third. I'm doing 30 miles an hour, 3,000 RPM, you know, no problem at all. And if I just accelerate away, it just pulls like a racehorse. This road is bumpy as hell, as you know. I've been on it many, many times on my videos. I absolutely adore it. The brakes are Brembo's, maybe not quite as good as the ones on my Monster, and I would prefer to have ABS, no question. I'm a million miles away from the racer's need of having all of that feel. Having that safety would be nice, as would traction control, to be honest. I like the this road is so bumpy, but the suspension is not, although it's bouncing my helmet around, is not causing any problems to the bike whatsoever. Again, here we are in second, you know, 3,000 RPM, 20-30 miles an hour, no problem. Glorious, handles beautifully. So yes, it would be nice to have the security features that a modern superbike has. The ability to, you know, do we use the ability to have different modes? I have them on my Monster. It's in sport mode, and I've never ever changed it out of it. Unless, you know, I'm showing somebody that it has modes, but whether it rains or whatever else, you know, you just adjust your right wrist accordingly, or your riding habit. Look at it, you know, she pulls in, sticks to a line, accelerates out of the corner. Even on this windy, beachy head road. Hello, cow. Now this cost me quite a bit of money. It's certainly, you know, as original as it is, low mileage as it is, condition that it's in, and it cost me a bunch of money to get it back on the road. So for, you know, that kind of money, I would be looking at a, you know, couple-year-old V2, something like that. And you've got to ask yourself, yourself, you know, am I missing out? Or what am I gaining? Well, I'm gaining this sound, that's for sure. Modern bikes are, you know, tuned and quietened and this, that and the other. This thing, there is nothing. It's just pure, beautiful engine. And then, you know, you've got the kind of collectibility of these. You know, these are going up in value, not down really. So that's a positive. On top of that, it's a bit of a, I mean, all Ducatis are head turners, no question. But this is a very special bike. And there's a lot of heads that turn when it shows up, or, you know, at the bike nights and stuff like that. Gets a bunch of attention. I'd argue more than newer bikes at the moment. Of course, those new bikes will eventually become classics, but I don't think at the kind of revered level that this thing is. Now, its course, I think I alluded that, you know, it's half the horsepower of what a modern V4S is. So, but on the roads, which is where I use my bikes 99.99% of the time, I can't use any of those. You know, I can barely use the horsepower that this thing has at 109. So I don't actually see that as a great loss, to be honest. It's still quicker than any car. Still has plenty of go. I don't know what the 0 to 60 time on this thing is, but, you know, not a lot. It feels very firm and sturdy. Even as the wind here is trying to blow me into that field on my right hand side. Let's see if I can actually get around this corner. This wind's trying to put me in the field. Powering out, oh, it's beautiful. Seem to run into quite a lot of traffic. But that seems quick enough for me. I don't know about you lot, but it does mean, as you probably saw then, I can open it up in first and second. I don't honestly know where the red line is, where the rev limiter is. Never hit it on this thing. Don't know whether I want to or not.
it is a 30-year-old girl, so take a bit of respect for mechanical respect for it. So the question remains, is it worth buying, you know, an old 90s bike, and how do they stack up? To be fair, if I compared this to my Monster, I probably would be a little bit quicker on the Monster than this, just generally, partly because of the safety features that the Monster has, and partly I think just because of being a little bit careful because of its age and what this is. But generally, you know, the 112 horsepower and the 109 of this are very, very similar. They're similar weights. It doesn't make much of a difference. You know, there's a few differences. The Monster's a little bit more wheelie prone, but that's obviously from the geometry and where you sit, as opposed to this thing where I've got all my weight over the front wheel. Sure, the dash doesn't tell me what time it is or what my average miles per gallon is, or, you know, all the other stuff that I really don't care about. And of course, I don't get of the modern Ducati wet clutches. I don't get that beautiful little ringing, which is so very Ducati. Beautiful noise when I'm stationary at traffic lights and stuff like that. So let's head back home and do a summary conclusion. But that's my little road test of the 916, a 1997 916, and what my general feelings are for her now that she's fully unleashed and I can use all of those ponies. I do want to and plan to put her on a dyno. I would be very curious to see how much she is given out and how many of those ponies she's lost over the years. That would be quite interesting to me. You know, Ducati, especially back in the 90s, were a little bit flexible with the accuracy of their figures, shall we put it. So let's head back home and compare the two. So we have come back from what turned out to be a rather windy ride, and what do we think? Well, summary of this. Well, as I mentioned on the ride, you know, taking away the riding dynamics, this is obviously far more comfortable than this is. But beyond that, how does it handle? Well, I mentioned this is definitely quicker to turn in, no question about it, but I put that down to the width of the bars. This is the old 90s style bars, which are much thinner. Even modern sports bikes have kind of slightly more wider bars to them. Just look at the new the Panigale V2, you know, huge wide bars. This
also has a wide, and I think that's generally, you know, the ability to muscle it left and right very quickly. This in the corners though is considerably more stable. It's much more, even still to this day, much more confidence inspiring going around the corners. It sticks to its line, it holds its line. You know, this does as well, no question. It handles beautifully. It's a modern, beautiful handling bike with quality suspension on it, but not quite to the same level as this does, and it's surprisingly good. Definitely when I switched the tyres, it was a huge noticeable event. There's so much feedback. It's talking to you through every element of its being, from the frame to the through the suspension, from the tyres, through the cables that operate everything within it. There's nothing digital about it. It is purely analog, and that is a direct communication to what you've got going on. So from that standpoint, without question, you know, I ride this on a regular basis. I've done nearly 30,000 miles on this particular bike, so I've ridden it a lot. Also ridden the V2 Street Fighter, you might see in a video, which is certainly closer to well, it's probably closer to this because it's different riding position, but engine-wise, similar to this. We also have now a slew of other twins. It's obviously, you know, the trend at the moment, the twin engines, similar horsepowers from you know 100 up to 120 or so horsepower for these twins. So it's very relevant in today's marketplace. And even the Panigale, the older Panigale V2 that I rode, I had that for a day. When this was getting some service work done, and you know, comparative to that, it holds its own without question, and that's without all of the additional things that this has that this doesn't have. You know, the fact of, you know, what it is, its aura, its being, the fact it turns heads dramatically, people stop and talk about it. It's a rare thing, and that's something that you don't get with at the same level with a modern sports bike. So yeah, if you're in the market for a sports bike or Ducati, look old as well as new. If you're, you know, really looking at the safety features and the benefits of that this holds, or the reliability that a modern bike has, then absolutely modern bikes all the way. But if you're looking for something that little bit extra special, and are not so fussed about spending the money on the servicing, the reliability issues that it has with it and so forth, you know, much more of a owner's experience with it, then certainly highly recommend the older ones. So in summary, does it hold its own 30 years on? Without question. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.